Once again, like, yo, like COVID really hasn't gotten super serious on the pound yet. People are getting sick, you know what I mean? But they're keeping it to themselves, and no one's like died like in the dorm yet. Like, we haven't heard about anybody dying like on the compound yet. Of course, people are trying to escape from quarantine by like putting the cold rags on their head. But for the most part, everybody's still like just trying to survive. Like, nobody, like, everybody hates being stuck in the dorm, like with no canteen and no rec, and there's some violence popping off in the dorms, and everybody's got a short fuse because we got freaking cabin fever. Everybody's stuck in the dorm, 24 hours for weeks on end, and it sucks. But the nurses come around, and normally like all the nurses in the chain gang are like women, and they can be a lot of attractive women. So like, all the inmates, all the convicts are trying to holler at the nurses and flirting with them. So everybody's looking forward to when the nurses come around. So it's still kind of like light in spirits, you know what I mean? Like the mood's still good. Like it really hasn't like hit home yet to where this is super serious. But as I mentioned, in episode 1 of COVID in prison, like, yo, it did kind of get like pretty serious when we seen the police coming like hazmat suits. We're like, dang. But that only lasted for like a couple days, because even the police were like, yo, like, we're not trying to wear these hazmat suits like all day working. It's super hot, super uncomfortable. So they only wore like the hazmat suits for a couple days, and then they stopped wearing them. All right, now time progresses, and like these little fevers that people are getting, some people are getting these little fevers, but some people are getting hit hard, and they're getting like slumped. You know what I mean? They're not eating for like 4 or 5 days, and they're just like comatose on their bed. Then I get hit. And keep in mind too, man, I'm waiting to go to work at least. I'm ready to go home. I'm watching the news, seeing people die. I'm hearing that this COVID-19 is killing people. So of course, man, I'm I'm kind of paranoid. So I get slumped. I get hit for like 3 days, can't leave the rack. Feel like there's a semi truck sitting on my chest, can barely breathe. But I just think it's kind of like me being like a hypochondriac, like, overthinking it. And it's kind of like in my head. But still, I was slumped, man, for like 3 days. So now people in the dorm are kind of getting sick for real. And some people are taking it better than others. Some people just got like fevers and really no symptoms. Other people, man, they get slumped for a few days. But my bunkie, man, the guy who sleeps right next to me, he's like mid 50s, but he's already got pre-existing health problems. He, I think, had a few strokes. I don't think there's one. I think he had one or two. I never really spoke to him, honestly, just because he was like an older guy, and he was kind of nasty, you know what I mean? And I guess just being honest, one thing about prison that like did to me is like I hated being around older people, because like, I don't know, a lot of elderly people in prison are like nasty, and unless they like been in prison forever and they got old in prison, I'm just being honest, a lot of the elderly people in prison normally have like, sex offenses and like child molestation cases and things like that. Once again, not to condemn, not to hate them, still loving on them with the love of Christ and trying to see them as Jesus does. But a lot of times, like, I didn't have like a lot of like friendships with like elderly people unless they were like already, Christians or involved in the church, or for some reason they were cool, whatever. I just had, for most part, yeah, I didn't talk to the guy. He was just older guy, kind of nasty, whatever. But then my bunkie, so he gets sick, and there was a guy who slept next to him, a younger guy, and they were from the same city. So this younger guy used to kind of take care of this old guy, you know what I mean? Like give him food and just look out for him, make sure he was good. That's a common thing in the chain gang. Like the elderly people, especially like the ones who don't have sex offenses and all that, and he didn't have one. People look out for him. Like, old school, you straight, you good? Let me know if you need something. Da, da, da. But once again, he wasn't that old. He was only like in his mid 50s, but he moved like an elderly person because of his stroke. You know what I mean? He had a cane. He really couldn't talk that good. He was really overweight. And like I said, he was pretty nasty. So this younger guy from his city used to try to like take care of him and help him out from time to time. So he got sick. You know what I mean? Everybody's getting sick now at this point. And then my bunkie, the old man who sleeps next to me, he gets sick. And I remember one day, like, he lived in the TV room. He lived in the day room. He used to always watch sports, watch everything. He just lived in the day room, lived watching TV. So one day, like, everybody's like screaming and yelling in the day room. And I think I went out to go get some water or something. I'm seeing what happened. And they're yelling at my bunkie. They're yelling at the old man because I guess he just like pissed. He just pissed on himself he was out there like watching TV. And I'm sure he, obviously didn't mean to. He just like pissed. So everybody's just selling him out, saying how nasty it is, da da da. And the young guy from the city, helped him, like walked him to the shower, made sure he got in the shower, and took the mop and threw bleach down, and mopped up his piss for him and everything, wiped down the bench and all that. So, anyways, the old man was sick, and obviously he was hitting him pretty hard. But then a couple of days after that, he did the same exact thing, and he pissed again in the day room. But this time, like, he didn't even make a big deal about it. He just pissed and just like kept watching TV. And that's when people were like snapping on him, like, yo, you're tripping. Like, we know you sick, but still you just can't just like piss and just act like it's no big deal, man. So they're just yelling at him, just like snapping on the old man. Same thing, you know what I mean? His friend helps him go get in the shower, cleans up his mess behind him. And it gets to the point to where, like, all right, now you can see like he's moving slower, he's not eating, so his young homie, tells the nurses when they come through, and they take the old man out. You know what I mean? They quarantine him. But rather than moving him to the quarantine dorm, they take him to medical quarantine, which is more serious. And then we hear in a couple of days that he dies. So this is when